Guys, I want to welcome you back. New season of the Shareholders is kicking off. Kicking off with a bang too, man. We got an amazing show for you today. A heavy topic we got to hit. So I got some heavy hitters in with me today. Got some of my brothers that were nice enough to come on. If you've been following the show, none of these guys are newbies. You know, they've all been on before, veterans. But glad to have them on. Dr. Todd Webb, how you doing, sir?
All good.
All right. My man Nemo also in the house, bro. Nemo, how you been, man?
Good, man. Good. How you
doing? Good. All right, Buck, back with us again as well, bro. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How everybody doing today?
Good, sir. Good. All right. So we got to get into it, guys. And I've been waiting to kind of kick back off the show. I've been kind of waiting for I wanted to really jump off show. And sure enough, man, news really exploded this week for sure with a bang. We know it's getting, we're about taping this now. We're about a week and a half from the Super Bowl. And it's things get set week before the Super Bowl. They do the Pro Bowl, all that, blah, blah. And news broke on, I believe it was Monday. It was late, kind of midday Monday, from a story with Coach Brian Flores. Brian Flores was the former coach of the Miami Dolphins for 3 seasons, and he was let go by the team. Now, right now, the NFL is kind of going through a hiring phase. You know, for most teams, the season is over. So the guys that have been fired, people, just kind of a shuffle going on, people getting hired, people taking interviews. And let me just start right there, because I remember, I'm not a big Dolphins fan, but I remember hearing that he had gotten let go, and I was a little surprised. Was anybody else surprised just when you heard they let him go? Nemo, you said?
Yeah, I mean, I know he didn't start off that great that year, this past season, but they ended, I think it was 8-1 that they finished.
Like that, yeah.
One of the hottest teams in the NFL. So, I mean, I was completely shocked when I saw them let him go. I felt like he started to make strides when Tua came back. And whatnot. So I was really shocked.
Yeah, I'm like Nemo. I was shocked as well. I mean, he finished with a record over 500, right? With not a rookie quarterback, but a quarterback that was trending upward. So I was shocked as well.
Yeah, Buck.
Yeah, likewise. I just thought that for him to have that type of team, and then to end the season, what you would call with momentum, with guys, playing at a higher peak, to get fired. Yeah. I just got a question, like, what's going on? Why would you fire him? I mean, I can see if he, what if people were 1-8 at the end of the year? That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah. No, I agree. And just to understand, he was 9-8 this year, 10-6 last year. Both years, I mean, they just barely missed the playoffs. His first year, rebuilding, they were 5-11. Yeah. I was surprised, because I said, wow, and so the thing is, for those that don't know as well, the Miami Dolphins, they have a quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, out of Alabama, with injuries and kind of high expectations, kind of an up and down season. And there was a lot of buzz about, I had heard that the owner had really kind of wanted Joe Burrow as well. Like, man, I know I remember hearing that, and Joe Burrow's been in the league now, and now he's in the Super Bowl, of course. And I just said, well, and then I had heard the owner really wanted Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson still has some legal issues, so he has not played this season. But I know that the owner, and there was, and even I had heard that, they were close to trying to get something done, even at the trade deadline, but didn't work. A lot of just tumultuous things, but that team really rallied. And when you see a team rally like that,
yeah,
you got to believe they're listening to the coach. It's something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, I'm with you. I agree. I thought if he, number one, he had a losing record, lost the locker room, right, and they were trending the other way.
Right.
I think you can justify maybe letting him go or trying to go in a different direction, right? But I hear the players loving, right? The players were responding, and the assistant coaches, OCs, defensive coordinator, then they were meshing and starting to gel and starting to get some things together. But to hear that they were going to let him go. I was surprised, right? It didn't gel well.
No, it did not. And so I just remember thinking like, wow, okay, Dolphins, what y'all doing? Because it's just so much unsettled. Now, when he got fired, I remember hearing a few reports. You heard the phrase power struggle and, maybe not quite getting along with management. Now, for full transparency, the GM of the Dolphins is Black, one of the few Black executives.
Your managers.
Yeah, but from what, there's a lot of, not every team is the same. And, like in Dallas, somebody might be the GM, but everybody knows Jerry Jones is running the show.
Correct.
Stephen Ross is the owner of the Miami Dolphins, and he's pretty much the hand that is moving everything. I know, not saying that the general manager doesn't have duties, but there are some general managers with a stronger hand, others who are kind of told what to do by the owner and all that. And that, from what I understand, is a situation in Miami. And it was really between the owner and Brian Flores, really. And the GM was kind of just cut out of that. So, we kind of just were like, wow. And so there started to be some hiring and in the NFL. And I think there was 8 positions open, 4 have been filled by white coaches. And it was starting to get to the point, I was kind of like, man, ain't nobody picked up Flores yet, because I just figured he was one of the I figured he was going to get hired like that, because I'm like, he's got experience, winning records, and especially in Miami, who has just been terrible. Let me bring that up real quick. Miami, they had not had a winning season. He had his first winning season. Let me see. So in 2020, they finished 10-6. They had one winning season in the last 9 years before he had got there. Wow. So 2 winning seasons. So anyway, we say all that to say then that the story comes out that Brian Flores is suing the NFL. The Dolphins, the Giants are in this as well, for racial discrimination, among other things. And this story just explodes. And it is like, whoa, what? Suing the NFL. So let me go around the table real quick. So I'll start with you, Buck. Just when you first heard there's a lawsuit by an active coach in the NFL against the NFL for racial discrimination, what were your first thoughts?
My thoughts were, he must have, number one, he must have some strong documentation for him to take on a lawsuit against the NFL. And the reason why my thoughts went there, because I remember when running back out of the Ohio State University, Maurice Claret, took on the NFL in a lawsuit. He wanted to take on the NFL because he felt that he should be allowed to be an employee of this employer, quote unquote, the NFL. And it was an age restriction, which is what he was battling.
Right.
I just thought that this is going to be something that's going to possibly change things going forward. But Brian Flores must have some great documentation and some proof to back up his lawsuit. That was my thought, was like, okay, this is not, I'm suing you because you just fired me from my job. It's bigger than my job.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought. I thought this is gonna spiral. It's gonna become a snowball, but he must have some great documentation to back up this lawsuit.
Nemo, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, same with Minister Bugner there. You must really have a lot of evidence that supports you, because you are really, I think he's going to get hired still. I know he interviewed with the Saints and whatnot. And he let them know ahead of the time that, hey, I'm dropping a lawsuit in the next couple of days. But he technically could be blackballed out of the NFL for doing this. So the fact, because, all the owners, I'm sorry, Roger Goodell works for the owners. Mm-hmm. So you're coming after the NFL, you're coming after the shield. 99% of the time, it doesn't work in your favor, just like Colin Kaepernick, right? So I felt like, man, you must have really supporting document. And the fact that he's a coach who beat Bill Belichick twice with a terrible roster. They were 1 game out of winning the division. I think it was, the Bills were 5-1 in the division. So the fact that he had a great year, can turn over that roster and do what he did, with Tua being out for majority of the year as well with injuries. For you to do that and to pretty much state, hey, I'm willing to risk my career and any future coaching jobs for the better good of the future for Black coaches and Black people in general. I was proud of him. But at the same time, I was like, man, I really hope it pans out. I hope he wins because he's putting his career on in jeopardy.
Yeah. Well, what's your thoughts?
Be honest, I thought that it's coaching, that's the death penalty, right? I think Nemo said it, partly taking on that shield, you're taking on, that's a David on Goliath type situation, right? You're taking on the very organization that has hired you, right? That employs you, right? You know, saying you can't beat City Hall. It's putting itself between a rock and a hard place. And like Buck said, he better have some strong evidence to back him up that when the lawsuit is that there's racial, the systemic racism within. Well, so that's something we already knew, right? So he better have some new information to bring to the table. That's something we didn't already know. Right now, when him getting fired, there's only one current head Black coach in Mike Tomlin with the Steelers. So out of what, 28, 32, we already know that there's racial, bias amongst the owners. So you better have something that's really, like you said, like Nemo said, that he might have Kaepernicked himself, right? Because you can win the battle, lose the war, right? You can make your statement and stance, but then never get hired again, or you get hired on a token status, and then they can still set you up to fail. I mean, he's in a spot. So he need to, and even if he does have, even if he does have some information that's gonna put a tarnish or chink in the shield, man, he's still gonna be under this extreme pressure to win. I'm talking about 10-6 is good. It's great, right? You got to take them boys to the Super Bowl or take them to that next level. To whereas, unrefutable, undeniable ability to fire me, because at 10-6 or 9-8 the last couple of years, I didn't think he would be fired.
No, I didn't either. And but like it's like what Denzel said in Training Day. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And so now what we have to understand is this, because we just kind of hit on it. The NFL, for those who know, it's 32 teams in the NFL. There's one current Black head coach. There was 3 this year. One was fired in Miami. One was fired in Houston, David Culley. So we're down to 1. Now, the issue is that the NFL itself is 70% African-American, okay? There have been, if I should have looked that up again. I believe there's either, I think the number is 24 or 28 total African-American coaches ever in the league. I think it was 24, mind you. Now there was, Ron Rivera is for the Washington team. He is of Mexican descent. And then the coach of the Jets is, forgive me, Robert Saleh.
Salah.
Robert Salah. He is, I don't even want to say, I don't want to disparage him, but he is not white and he's not African-American. So that's 2. So that means 29 coaches are white right now.
Right.
We've had a total of 24 ever Black. So where Brian Flores, first of all, is coming from, it's just like, come on, the numbers. And I've already had a lot of internet arguments with people because they'll say, well, look at society. There's only 13% of Black people in society. So, but I said, but time out. See, here's the problem with that. The New Orleans Saints, they're not going to interview the mailman and the guy that works at Walmart, and they're not going to interview the dude that works at Home Depot. 31 of the 32 coaches this year either played in college or played in the NFL. That is the pool that they take it from. You can't coach if you've never been in football. The only guy that wasn't was Urban Meyer. So, and we know how that went. But so I said from that pool, between college and pro, African Americans are 65% of the pool. So if it was just the law of averages, we should have at least 14 to 19 coach, just flipping a coin, if you do it like that. So to have 1 is an issue right there. Now let's get to, there is somewhat of a smoking gun in this story because Brian Flores, filed a lawsuit.
Mhm.
Also in the lawsuit, though, he shows a string of text messages
Mhm.
between him and Bill Belichick, who is the coach of New England
yeah.
Patriots. And to me, I feel like this is really what set Brian Flores over the edge, because basically Bill Belichick is sending congratulatory texts to Brian Flores, but the Giants hired a guy named Brian Daboll.
You're wrong, right?
And so, but Coach Flores, Brian Flores, did work for Bill Belichick, so they know each other. He was on the staff for a while. They're good friends. So they're going back and forth, and Belichick is like, "Well, congrats on the job," and he's like, "Well, I'm going to hire," and all that stuff. And then finally, Coach Flores says, "Coach, you know this is Brian Flores." And then Belichick says, "Oh my goodness, I messed up. I thought it was Daboll." The only issue is not that he's congratulating wrong.
Yep.
Brian Flores has yet to interview for the New York Giants job.
Yep.
And Coach Belichick is already congratulating a guy, which means Brian Flores is going to basically a dummy interview.
That's it.
Yep.
And that's where he's like, wait a minute, now hold on. And so, and I'm gonna sum this up because I want to hear from my panel again. So what you guys understand is this quickly. The NFL has something called the Rooney Rule, which they had to put in place 20 years ago because Black coaches weren't even getting interviewed. So the Rooney Rule says every NFL team, you have to at least interview, not hire. You have to at least interview a Black candidate, please, just to give these guys interviews. So the New York Giants were basically, I'm just saying allegedly, were just giving him a fake interview because they already had their guy. They weren't going to really give him a shot. And so when he finds that out, he's like, oh my gosh. So coming from that point, I'll go counterclockwise now. I'll start with you, Webb. How do you feel with the Belichick part of this? Now knowing that, Colin Kaepernick didn't have like two owners saying, let's keep him out the league. But, Brian Flores has this like, wait a minute now, Belichick knows something. He knows the Giants organization. Do you feel like that gives him a leg up?
Well, who's that for?
I'll start with you, Webb.
You talking about in this lawsuit?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I would refer to that. Then I would refer to that. Then I would keep going because something is going on. I mean, shame on Belichick for not getting his Bryans right? and reaching out and congratulating. He should have waited till let me put Adam Schefter in this. He should have waited till somebody broke it. It was a little more reliable that the job has already been given to the right Brian. So I absolutely agree that he's got a leg up. He's got literally has a smoking gun. I'm thinking that this Rooney Rule, the way the owners have found a loophole, so to speak, we're going to interview one or two Black candidates to check a box, right? To say we went through the process. You remember the story with Dennis Green got interviewed by Jerry Jones on the phone.
Yeah.
Just so Jerry Jones could say, hey, yeah, we interviewed Dennis Green for the Dallas job. And he really wanted, Bill Parcells or whoever he wanted at the time. So I think it's just a process, and it goes on in corporate America. It goes on in city government. It goes on even in politics. Yeah. The token, right? They used to call it the affirmative action plan, right? And what happens is it undermines the whole process, right? And I'm just going through the motion. I will be hurt as well. I'll be devastated. I'm like, what?
He actually said he was humiliated. He said,
or I would be like, I got it? What? They gave it to me without even interview?
Right.
One or the other.
But yeah, he used the word humiliated. He said, I was humiliated going to their interview, knowing good and well that it seems they picked somebody else. Nemo, I want to ask you this. So for Coach Flores, we all kind of said like this could be the death knell right here, but if they don't hire him now, wouldn't that prove his point? It's like people are like, well, he ain't working in the NFL now, but it kind of seems like he has the NFL in a pickle because if y'all don't hire him, I would ask, what is your thought on that? Because it seems like they got him. He's got a leg up.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I think the Saints are going to hire him. So I think he's going to get a job. And like you said, if they don't, that just gives him more proof because it's not like he wasn't you know, like he wasn't successful with the Dolphins. He led 2 back-to-back seasons of winning seasons, which they haven't had in 9 years. So he's successful, and he's been successful in the last 2 stops. So it would give him more evidence to show, hey, like something is going on. Now, I will say, when they hired the other Brian Dubal, he has a connection with the new GM that the Giants just hired. They both worked in Buffalo. So that's also another evidence for Brian to show, hey, like, yeah, you already had your boy planned out a week, 2 weeks. As soon as he got the job, he already had his boy picked in it. So
that's a good point.
It definitely will give additional evidence to Coach Flores if he doesn't get a job. But I think eventually he will end up leading one. But yeah, it would hurt him. It would hurt the NFL more if he doesn't get a job this year.
Buck, let me ask you this then, because I just had a conversation with somebody about, we were talking about our old civil rights leaders and kind of wondering the leadership direction. And I was literally saying, I'm like, man, but somebody's got to be willing to sacrifice. Yeah. Now, Coach Flores is literally putting his coaching career on the line. And this, you know, his whole life, he talked about, he's a Brooklyn guy, New York guy, first of all, Giants. I don't know what y'all talking about. You know, the Giants said they felt Daboll was most qualified. Now, you can like Daboll, but don't say he's most qualified. Daboll's never been a head coach. But to speak to the sacrifice that he's willing to make, because like we said, we saw Cap lose his career after this. What kind of man do you really, and to not know, of course, I don't know Coach Flores very well. Of course, the black coach, I look out for him, like, okay, doing good, all that. What does that speak to other, I would say, young African-Americans, even in the game right now, to see this man try to take on what seems to be a giant, standing on his principle where, you know, because like Nemo said, he had other interviews lined up. It wasn't like this was his last shot, but he's like, no, this ain't right. And I'm gonna go ahead with this. What do you feel that speaks to the others in the league?
I feel that for Brian Flores to make this type of stand, the old adage comes to mind: be the change that you want to see in the earth. For him to sacrifice everything to say, no, number one, this is not right for how y'all did me. Y'all just blackballed me and fired me. But the second thing is for him to say in some of the interviews, I'm about truth. Yeah. I'm about my truth, not just my truth, but I'm about being a person who does things with integrity. Yeah. 2 things. One, he talked about the conversations he's had with Stephen F. Ross, the owner, and how he asked him to tank games. He asked him not to work so hard.
Yeah, we about to get to that. Yeah.
Mention money in mouth. Listen, I'll give you $100,000. Just go on vacation. Don't work so hard. For him to make that type of claim of conversations and then to say, I wouldn't take it. But then to turn around and the win and loss column for the last 2 years proves that I really did my best to try to make this organization successful. But because I was fired after that, I think for younger, you know, African-American men, whatever level you on, to me, that speaks integrity. The moment I said it, the morning that it came out and he said those words and I watched his interview, I said, he must be a man of true integrity to say, I have to speak up and not stay silent. But then also, if you heard the comments from Miami Dolphins owner come out and say that they refute these claims and they're going to stand and fight those things, somebody not telling the truth.
Right.
As my grandma would say, somebody lying. Somebody lied. Somebody lied.
And let me tell you this. The first thing when this story broke, I think not even 2 hours later, the NFL put out a statement that said, you know, this lawsuit is without merit. Now, and I had an immediate problem with that right there. Because y'all didn't even have time to even look over. It's a 54-page report and immediately come out the NFL and say, it's one thing if Stephen Ross want to say, no, that ain't true. The NFL already showed their hand by trying to discredit it without, and that was what people on Twitter were always like, now how y'all going to say that? We haven't had time to look at it.
Correct.
So this now leads us to Brian Flores might not win the war he wants to win because it is hard to prove discrimination, you know, and, you know, black people, it's not a situation where we're saying, hire me because we're black. Black people are never saying that. It says, give us the same opportunity. Now, again, it's hard. It's going to be hard to prove that, even with the Belichick stuff and all that.
Yeah.
But here is the other part of this story that the NFL is quaking in their boots about, is that what Buck said. Coach Flores is saying his owner was trying to incentivize him to lose games. Now, guys, I remember when Brian Flores got hired, and somebody said, they said this is an interesting hire, because at that time, the Dolphins were trying to lose to get the first pick. They wanted to just tank the season.
That's right.
And I cannot remember who said it, but I literally remember someone saying, Brian Flores is not the kind of coach you bring in to lose, because he is strong-willed and he's not going to just lay down. I remember that from 3 years ago. And so for him to hear this owner tell him that, and he says, you won't incentivize me to lose games. Now, the problem for the NFL is this. It is gambling. All right. The NFL is now, a lot of these sports leagues are tied into gambling. You know, they've got MGM sports books and they got promotions. They used to shun away from it. But if people are gambling and they feel like a team is purposely trying to lose, that throws everything out of whack. Okay. And that's the money side of this. And that's why the NFL, and that's probably the first thing they were talking about, is without merit, because this gambling money is huge for them. And if people don't feel like stuff's on the up and up, that's like the referee scandal from the NBA a couple years ago and stuff. That's huge. So I want to ask you guys, and I want everybody to answer on this one. What should, if this is true, that the owner of the team tried to get his coach to lose games on purpose, what should happen to Stephen Ross if that is true? I'm gonna start with you, Nemo.
I feel like it should be, not say call it the death penalty, but he should be forced to sell the team. Because at the end of the day, you have fans who are paying money. Some people spending their life savings to either fly cross country or to buy season tickets to go to these games to support these players. They're buying uniforms, they're coming and buy your food. So they're spending on average close to a couple $1,000s.
Yeah.
And you're literally losing games on purpose. So then I have to come to games, see a terrible product. He should have to sell the team, even though it's his, even though he bought it. But at the same time, the NFL prides itself on integrity. You're doing the ultimate reverse. So I feel like he should have to sell the team at the end of the day.
Buck, let me get your take on that.
I agree. I think he should be forced to sell the team, just for the fact that that's a lack of integrity. And if the Shield is going to have any regard for trying to clean up the game or try to make sure that fans have a good experience and try to make sure that the fix is not in, they're going to be left without a choice. I'm just going to be honest with you, because you can't suspend them. Suspend them for what?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And pretty much you're trying to fix the season so you can get a better draft pick. I just think that's a lack. Yeah, the NFL has to show a strong sense of integrity to try to show face that, you know what, we really want the fans and our players to be supported, that this is a clean game, so to speak, and that we're running business the right way.
I don't necessarily think it needs to be a sell the team moment, because this is a general practice in the NBA. Trust the process, right? I thought that's what Philly was doing, right? And it worked for Philly to a certain degree. They got Joel Embiid, they got Ben Simmons. They did, there was like Nemo. People pay hard-earned money to pay for parking, tickets, and concessions, and to travel to those games. But they was tanking for years. Now I'm not on board with the whole tanking type philosophy, but I don't know if we can force the man to sell his team. I think if we can prove it, then maybe a hefty fine, right, and some draft choices or something in that regard, a suspension. But to sell the team, and that's harsh. I think what happened to the Clippers owner a couple of years ago was merited. I think that was a little more merited because I think it was a little more racially motivated, and he had lost the city, lost the team, and it was just a bad look. it was all right in that Black Lives Matters era. So I think it was a lot of pressure from a lot of different
Now
sides.
let me speak on that because I want to talk about that. Even with Donald Sterling,
Right.
he gave up the team. He could have fought that.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with these owners is that, you know, you can try to push them out, but they don't really know the full. No owner has technically ever been forced in a league to give up his team. You know, it's like if I own my car, I'm not
Right.
making no more. If I own it, you just can't make me give it up because I own it. And they talked about how Adam Silver, who's the commissioner of the NBA, he did a good job, but they were like, if Donald Sterling really wanted to fight it, he could have really dragged this out. And so now with Stephen Ross, you know, last time, I mean, the difference too, kind of even with this tanking, of course, we know that, like even in the NFL, but when you're paying someone to lose, it kind of
That's the difference.
Yeah, that's the difference. It kind of goes, you know, I know Pete Rose got in trouble for gambling on baseball, and there's allegations he gambled on his team. Well, they know he gambled on his team. They don't know if he gambled against the team or for the team, but baseball just said you're done after that, and that was a management situation. But it's very interesting to see. Now, since that story came out, Hugh Jackson, who was a coach at the Cleveland Browns, was not nearly as successful as Brian Flores was. But Hugh Jackson was like, the owner here also was basically giving me the same thing to lose games. Now, you know, a lot of people are like, wait a minute, what? Now, I'm gonna tell you this.
Thanks, man.
That owner in Cleveland had a $90 million fraud case that he had to settle. He owns the Flying J. And I'm not, you know, that happened. I'm not saying that means he did this, but a lot of people immediately kind of came against Hugh when they were like, well, you know, it's a lot of nefarious situations going on. And even if you guys remember the Bounty Gate thing from New Orleans, where they were paying extra bonuses to the players, they hit them hard for that.
Yeah.
So I know Roger Goodell next week has to give his State of the Address before the Super Bowl. It's going to be very interesting.
Right. Hold on, I don't mean to cut you off, but so if that be the case, right? So I don't think he should have to sell. But if that be if they can prove that you incentivized me for losing, then why did you fire me? Number one, I didn't have a losing season in the past 2 seasons, and you're gonna ask me to tank, then you're gonna fire me. Then you must have fired me based on something personal, or was it racially motivated, or like you said earlier, was it a power struggle? It's something other than football.
But that's the thing too. How do you fire the dude that you was trying to illegally get to tank games? Like
in his mind, he purposely hired him so that he could have, hey, we hired a black coach, we get the additional draft pick, which with the Rooney rule, they get the additional draft pick, they get additional money. Hey, we'll tank 2 or 3 years, we'll fire him, we'll get the coach that we really want. So I think that's why I alluded to,
at the
end of the day, he should probably give up his team, because it's the meaning behind.
Yeah.
Hey, we paid you. I tried to, the intent behind it, because he intentionally tried to lose games and pay. That's why I went to that point.
So then would that be the case? Then I might be shifting a little more to the side of that maybe he ought to give his team to fulfill the integrity.
Well, it's
of the game, right? That's a good point.
I think if I may chime in, I honestly, and hearing both sides, I'm honestly thinking that even if it comes out that there's evidence that Brian Flores was unfairly treated in interviews, unfairly fired, whatever the case may be, just knowing, to me, Roger Goodell's past, because he does represent the owners, I don't see him or the board making Stephen F. Ross give up his team. I'm thinking they're gonna probably give him a suspension for some games and have somebody else as acting owner.
Right.
In my heart, I wish that would happen. I just hate to say it that way. It might happen just based on just the evidence that if it's proven that they're, that Brian Flores was actually offered money if he has text messages and proof other than just conversations. But I don't see, I don't know. It's hard to see Roger Goodell saying, sell your team. I'm just going to be honest. Because so much money's at stake.
Well, yeah, that's twofold, because you got to understand, this is an exclusive club. It's 32 owners, basically majority owners. And I heard a person say, no matter what the situation is, these owners don't want to set a precedent where somebody could get thrown out of the club. They don't want that, period. What point? I don't care what it is, if it's this or something else or somebody, whatever, they're very scared of that, number one. And then, like you say, with Roger Goodell, Roger Goodell takes a lot of the arrows for them. That's why they like him, because they just stick him up there, and everybody just yells at Goodell when really he works for the owners. But so and the thing too is, now I want to make this clear too. Hugh Jackson says he can back up everything that he's claiming. And I'm going to tell you this: I don't blame Hugh Jackson. If you're a black coach, you don't have the security. And I was telling somebody, I said, even when we go back to the disparity in hiring, I said, you got to understand, this is not most of these guys' only endeavor. A lot of these guys own other businesses. And I said, and I'm going to just say this on the record, I bet you won't find many African Americans in leadership positions in those businesses. So true. NFL is a reflection of what they're probably doing in other places. So who knows with that? So this story is still developing. Now, I want to hit on one more thing, because the question then is, what exactly is Brian Flores trying to get out of this totally? Because somebody said, well, they're just going to probably settle with him for some money and all that. And I said, well, yeah, it's not like he's going to win and become the king of the NFL or something, but go back 20 years, go back 22 years. In 2000, which I did not know, Johnny Cochran sued Coca-Cola for this exact thing. Wow. Unfair hiring practices and labor, and black people were getting paid much less than the white counterparts. All this. Johnny Cochran headed this up, and they settled, but they won because they got money for the plaintiffs, but also they changed the hiring practices at Coca-Cola. Now, this was in 2000. I didn't even know nothing about this. I was shocked. And they said this Rooney Rule came about because Johnny Cochran then set his sights on the NFL, like, I'm coming for y'all next. So they did the Rooney Rule to try to appease that. So it's not unheard of. And I think Brian Flores, I think he would just like to say, I would love to still work in the NFL. If I don't work in the NFL, fine, but I want to see changes. So when the settlement comes, don't just give me a check. I want an admission of guilt. And I would like to see changes made all the way around to where we can fix this, to where we don't have, again, it's crazy to say there's one coach out of 32 in the NFL when your workforce is 70% black. So I feel that's what he's trying to get. I think. Now, if you that's going
to be the test right there. So to me, I think this is just me, but I don't mean to get back on Kaepernick. You can't sue the NFL, win an undisclosed amount of money, and then want to come back and play. Right. So it's either one or the other, right? So if Brian Flores takes the bag of money because they're going to offer him something, right? A settlement. Turns down the settlement, I think he makes a strong case for making a historical stance for, other future black coaches, right? Who can stand up and say that, we looked at Brian Flores back in 2022, taking a stand, taking on the shield, and he may not have won that battle, but he won the war, right? I think Mike Tomlin should put his voice in this, right? Because think about it. He's won a Super Bowl. He's a successful black coach, right? So go on and put your 2 cents in. You have street cred in the game, right? You've got the wins. Matter of fact, the Rooney Rule was Rooney was a owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
Right. So guess what? So you almost like Teflon. You're really untouchable. I think he ought to take a leadership role and step up and make some comments, right? One way or the other, right? But I would hope it will be on the side of Brian Flores, because you talk about the owners of the exclusive club. Well, Black Coaches is even a smaller exclusive club right now. He's the only one in the club, right? You know, with Carly being out and Flores being out. So I think I don't mean to go back, but I think she should step up and take a stand. It is Black History Month, right? So let's make some Black history.
Nemo, you got any aspirations for this lawsuit at all? What you think will come out of it?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's change. I think if it was a money grab, I think his stance would be different. You know, he wouldn't have interviewed for other jobs. He wouldn't have been up front with the other GMs before he went interview with the Saints and the Texans. So I do believe it has to be changed. But like Webb said, it's a bigger stance. It would make a bigger message if he says, "Hey, I didn't do it for the money. I can make the money up by coaching. I can make the money up from doing other endeavors at the end. I'm doing this because I'm tired of seeing the same thing over and over and over again, year in, year out." So I really do hope that, you know, the change is, hey, let's take a step of this. I know in the report, it said the Broncos, when he interviewed with the Broncos a couple of years ago, they showed up reeking of alcohol, right? So I think I think he did this because he's just so fed up of the process, where you see a Black coach go into an interview and they already have a guy planned out. They just have to, hey, we gotta interview one Black guy. Let's go ahead and check this off the box. And then literally hours later, you see so-and-so team has hired so-and-so coach. So I just think at the end of the day, the biggest message will stand is if he turns down the money. Now, of course, hey, they want to include the money in there. Hey, great. Don't want to count another man's pockets. But the bigger message would be is, hey, in this settlement, what are we going to do to take that next step up towards the change that we want to lead to?
Buck, your thoughts?
I agree with Webb, Nemo. I just believe it's not about money. I believe it's about the integrity and about change coming to the NFL because of all the things that we just mentioned. And I just hope that those allegations that he's given, you know, publicly, I just hope that they are substantiated, you know, with documentation, that his credibility is seen as, okay, this man is truly a man of integrity. And so I just hope it brings change. And that's the thing about the Rooney Rule. The Rooney Rule was instituted for the right reason, but we got to take it a step further when we talk about employment, when we talk about opportunities, and hopefully the NFL can now become a progressive organization even the more when it comes to men of color working as coaches, GMs, offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, whatever positions that are available, and that they get the opportunity to fairly interview and get hired. So I believe it's about change at this point, you know, and some of the things he said are just for legal reasons were allegations, but I just hope it's proven, you know, in the court of law.
Most definitely. And I want to say again, for the record, the NFL, the Giants, the Denver Broncos, and the Miami Dolphins are denying the allegations, just so we cover all bases there. They're denying it. And so again, that's why we're going to, you know, litigate it and go to court about it. But yeah, and again, the whole tricky part of this is that at the end of the day, you know, you can't force the Cincinnati Bengals to hire a Black guy. You know what I mean? Like, that's what's hard about this, is that, you know, the owner owns a team. They can hire whoever they want. You know what I mean? This is America. But you just hope change happens to where guys get a fair shake. A coach, a proven coach like Brian Flores should not be getting the shaft from the Giants that he allegedly did. That's ridiculous. Okay. And I feel like Brian Flores is just like, talk to me like you talk to Dayball, like you talk to other guys. And if you like him better, fine. But let the best man win. But don't, you know, and the crazy part about it, we brought up Mike Tomlin. His story is amazing because the same thing, the Steelers were already going to hire another guy. He was the last interview. They said, come on in, and he blew him away. He was just, and if you ever heard Mike Tomlin speak, you can see where you know, totally collected of himself, as confident as he be. And that's where they kind of got that from. So that's really what we want to see. Now, I do feel there, you know, I don't think he needs or wants any NFL money. I think he does want that Miami Dolphins money because he's like, y'all fired me on the wrong, which I feel like, I just feel like he's entitled to, but that's a different subject. But he strikes me as a guy that he knows it's bigger than him. This is because, again, this is historic. Like Nemo said, he could get the Saints job. And it'd be crazy that you're getting a job and then suing the institution. So we still don't know where this is going to go. We don't know.
They said he was. Hey, E, they said he was also a finalist for the Texans job.
And the Texans, yeah, and the Texans know him as well. So,
and they got a history of hiring black coaches.
Let me say something for the record, because I've had some arguments too. There's a coach, there's an offensive coordinator in Kansas City, Eric Bieniemy.
Oh my God!
Why is he?
The Kansas City Chiefs have been an offensive juggernaut for about 4 or 5 years. They got Patrick Mahomes. They got some great players. Now, there already have been, I'm ready for the arrows. There's been arguments. Well, Andy Reid, I think Andy Reid calls the plays. Okay, let's say Andy Reid calls the plays and Bieniemy's just the coordinator. Well, you can't get a job if you don't call the plays. The guy in Green Bay, his name is Hackett, just got the Denver Broncos job. And LaFleur, Coach LaFleur calls those plays. Okay. Well, here's the thing though. You know, Kansas City always goes so deep in the playoffs. These teams want to have their court. They don't want to wait for the coordinator. The Vikings are going to hire the Rams offensive coordinator after the Super Bowl. So I don't want to hear, stop. There's no reason why this brother.
That's true.
With that, I mean, again, Andy Reid vouches for him, Patrick Mahomes vouches for him, Travis Kelce. They're like, he's amazing. Like, what are y'all doing? They won't get his brother a shot. So I wanted to give him a shout out as well, because the Giants, their last coach was a special teams coach. Now, I'm not hating on special teams coach, but come on now.
Listen.
Harbaugh for the Ravens was special teams coach.
Right. You know what I mean? But this guy from the Giants was a disaster. Like, stop it. Like,
who's the coach down there? Who's the brother down with the Bucks? He's the quarterback.
Brian
Leftwich. He's another one that he should be up for some jobs, right? And you listen, and I don't mean to turn this into nothing like I said, the race thing, but with Urban Myers, and that's my boy, but what he did, a black coach, done.
Oh.
Done. The stuff he pulled, he'd be done, right? So give us the opportunity, give us a fair shake. What it's going to come down to literally is buying our own teams, right? We own the team, right? We coalesced our money together and we somehow buy us a team, right? They need to expand the league, right? Maybe go to 35, 36, whatever. That'll increase more opportunities for more black coaches and more black owners. Brothers like Jay-Z or these high rollers with all this money, they want to get into to that next level, that old money, like the Crafts and the Roonies, and guess what? Put your money together, okay? Move away from buying these record labels. Get yourself an NFL team. Then you can hire who you want to hire. Then we got our own.
That's what I was going to say as well. If we came back to it, is the change has to start from the owners, because the owners are saying, you're not going to tell me when they added the Rooney Rule, we don't care about a second, third round pick. You're not going to tell me who I can and cannot hire.
Right.
So the change starts with the owners. But as you see, the owners are, I'm not, love all my people, but they're 60, 70-year-old white men.
Right.
Who are stuck in their ways year after year, generation after generation is passed down. So that's the change that needs to come from it. We need to see an African-American, somebody minority own a team, but that inclusive club, they don't want to let people in that's not of them or of their kind. So that is the first step that needs to happen. And I 100% agree.
And let me say this, because I mean, man, I don't know why I've been on the internet arguing so much. I've been arguing with folks. And here's the thing. Black people were not saying do this for everything. Because let me tell you something. If the Toronto Maple Leafs fire their coach and hire a white guy, we're fine. We don't care. Because black people don't really play much hockey. So it's not, there's not a disparity where all the black hockey coaches at. Because the league, I think, is 3% black. It's not really a sport we're engaged in. But we're saying 70% of us are y'all workforce, and y'all can't put none of us in management. That's crazy. Like, let me ask y'all this. They have baseball leagues in South America and Central America. How many white guys are running baseball teams down there? They're not. You know what I mean? They're taking care of, there might be a few. I'm just saying, y'all know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Because that's guys playing down there, Dominican, you know what I'm saying? Or they're, from Cuba, whatever, all that stuff. It's just there's no representation on higher levels. And like we say, it is going to have to come with ownership. It is going to have to come with seeing more faces, because honestly, a big part of this too is, I think they said almost half the coaches in the NFL right now either have a family tie or a connection to the coach that has a family tie. Like even 49ers, our coach is a second generation coach, Shanahan. You know, his father coached the Denver Broncos, and then he got in his boys. They all, you know, McVay in LA, LaFleur, all these guys came from the same connection. We don't really have that because it's proven that black coaches get a shorter leash and don't get a second job. That's a proven fact. So having ownership would really change some things, I feel, but it's hard to break in, you know. So you know, the next opportunity, now we might have an opportunity coming up. I don't know if Miami we go see. Might have a, you know, get the money right.
So is that the real is that the bigger picture? Right. We went from the black quarterbacks, and we got several successful black quarterbacks, black coaches, but the next level really is is ownership, right? That's that next level, because like Mimo said, it's hard to tell, you know, an older non-man of color what to do with his money, right? What he must do, right, with the team that he owns. And I get it. And just to correct you from something you said earlier, Missy, they're not a Washington Commanders. You said the Washington.
That's right. Yeah, excuse me. They didn't went to the Commanders. And
I got a problem with that. That sounds. I don't know if I like that title even better.
I heard a person make a joke about that. They said, who decided that? Because they said Commanders. If you say Commanders, they said you shorten that, it's the commies. Like, what they gonna call them? I said, I didn't think of it.
See,
that's true. I was like, yeah.
Dan Snyder, man. Hey.
Yes, it's not even. We're not even gonna get on Snyder. All that we still ain't done with that mess. That's still a whole story. They coming.
That's still.
Yeah, a lot of things with that. Just not even the name, but so you know, people check this story out. It is all still developing. We're just getting into it. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of litigation, but I definitely want to give a shout out to Brian Flores. He did not have to do this. Like we said, he's got other interviews, and at some point, I'm sure he would have got picked up by somebody, but he finally just said, this is enough, you know, with what he's seen, and to be treated that way as a very good coach in the NFL. And it just takes one to start it. And so hopefully we do see some changes. So any other final thoughts before we go with this show for today?
I would just say I hope, you know, the litigation and as things play out, that it works in the favor for change for any aspiring football coach to go to the NFL. But then also, and Nemo hit the nail on the head. It comes with opportunities and ownership as well.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully some of our, you know, young people that are looking at sports management maybe stop looking to become a sports agent, but go into the management of sports, professional sports teams. And that's football, basketball, baseball, as well as hockey, and then also soccer as well. Yeah. So we just hope things work well. I hope Brian Flores gets a job, and I hope he gets his money from the lawsuit and from Miami.
Yeah, most definitely. Anybody else? Anything else to say?
Yeah. Well, on the joking side, but I know, you know, the beef that Bill Belichick had with the NFL and Roger Goodell, Spygate, you know, Deflategate. Do you think this was the ultimate? Wow. I got one for y'all.
That's the question. Did Bill Belichick accidentally do this, or did he kind of know what he was doing? We ain't never gonna know, you know. Bill.
We're talking Bill Belichick, right?
Hey, you know, Bill just
Petty Bill.
Nah, Bill plays chess. He playing chess.
Yeah, you know, hey,
checkers.
You don't know.
But I like how when he sent that text message, I messed up. He made sure he added his initials at the end, BB.
Yeah, hey. So, I don't know.
Joking aside, but
that's another little thing on the internet kind of bubbling up. Like, the Bill really just, hey. So there's a lot to still get to this, guys. So keep your eyes open for this. He spoke really well, and I saw he did a couple shows first on ESPN, a couple places I seen Coach Flores, and we won't hear it. It's not the end of it for sure, but guys, check us out. Shareholders is back. Very much appreciated. Got some big surprises coming on the network as well. Me and Tiff will be back soon as well, but I want to thank my guys. Thank you, Buck, Nemo, Webb. Thank you guys for coming on. Please, please, please subscribe as well. Tell a friend. This is the Shareholders Podcast, guys. You know what to do. Please be blessed. Stay sharp. Thank you, fellas.
Stay sharp.